Average men lack emotional fitness. They're very emotional, they're very reactive, while high achievers, they're in control of their emotions and they know how to get things done by not reacting to them. In this video, we're going to react to Patrick Bet-David interviewing Robbins, and they talk about mental health in this country, and most important, how do we change our focus? What's the difference between an average man and high achievers when it comes to emotional fitness? Let's begin.
To the average person with this direction we're going, right? Hey, you got a problem? Take this pill. Take this, bipolar pill. Take this, whatever this pill is, Prozac. Take this, Zoloft, all this stuff. I have an insurance company. A lot of guys are on a lot of stuff. I have no idea this many medication people are taking, right? How do we get there, and two, what's the solution for it long term?
Well, I think we got there by trying to get efficient with the process of managing human beings that aren't managing through their life. We went to therapists originally, and then psychiatrists, not psychologists, became driven by basically the pharma business. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's there now.
So right there, Patrick Bet-David is talking about the average person is just looking to get some help. The average person doesn't have all the access, the things the high achievers have. So what they're doing is they're relying on pills. They're relying on drugs to manage their state. And Tony talks about how they have the wrong people are controlling their prescription. The people who are incentivized by the pharma companies are the ones who are prescribing these certain drugs, and most of the time don't do anything but just keep them sedated in their emotions.
So, for example, on the cover of Newsweek 2 years ago, there's an article. And the cover, I actually brought it here just in case you hadn't seen it. See, I think I have it in here anyway. I threw it in here. But the cover of it talks about how SSRIs, which is the drugs that we use for depression, they don't work. Oh, maybe I left it on the helicopter. It says on the cover, 42 million Americans doing it, and meta studies now show that a sugar pill is just as effective as SSRIs, and they don't have the downsides.
Is this one?
Yep. You
Hooked
got it
on Hype.
Hooked on Hype.
Yeah.
There you go. What does it say there? Antidepressants work no better than sugar pills for most of the 43 million Americans who take them.
Can you imagine building a product that's based on hype? That is not about how many people you help, but how many people think that they're being helped by using these drugs. And most of the time, these drugs have so much side effects that are even worse than the initial thought of the initial depression.
We know that as a fact now. It's 2 years later, and we're still giving this mass number of human beings on this earth these drugs that don't change anything. They just basically make them so they're numb.
The pills are there to numb the pain. And when a client comes in and he says, Raul, I'm depressed, the first thing I ask him is, let's make a list of all the things that you're depressed about. Let's make a list of all the things that are wrong with your life. And then we focus on what are the things that are working in your life. Because see, I find that men who are depressed or people who are depressed is just what they focus on the most. And if you focus on all the wrong things in your life, of course you're going to be depressed. We all have things to be depressed about. I'll give you a list of things that you and I could sit down and you could feel bad for me. Or we could look at what are the things that are working right now in my life, in your life, to actually be grateful. So depression for me is just a mismanaged way to focus on what's going on right now in your life.
We don't experience life. We experience life we focus on. Meaning what's wrong is always available, so is what's right. Whatever you focus on, you feel, even if it's not true. If you imagine something horrible is going to happen, you feel it. You're in your body, right? So focus equals feeling. Focus equals reality to the individual, even though it's not reality in actuality. We decide, every moment we're deciding what to focus on, but most of us don't decide consciously. It's based on habit. So we're not in control. But we can consciously choose what to focus on.
One of the things that I do every single morning is I have a gratitude journal. I ask myself 3 things. What am I grateful for? That's first thing. The second is, what am I excited for today? The third is, what am I going to focus on today? So if you start programming your mind to start looking at changing your focus, because the average person is unconsciously choosing what to focus on. The high achiever knows that he has to have a strategy to change his focus. Most of the time I wake up with negative thoughts. Most of the time I wake up with low energy. I say, I have to change my focus, and I start by writing those things down. What am I grateful for? What am I excited about? What am I going to focus on? Then I throw in a 4th thing that I do is, what's my mantra for today? And every single day I have a different mantra, because what I do is I program my mind first thing in the morning to focus on the things that I want out of life, as opposed to focusing on all the things that are not working on my life.
When we decide what to focus on, our brain has to come up with a meaning, like we said, the end or the beginning. Loving me or dissing me, whatever the case may be. And that affects your emotions, which decides the third decision, what am I going to do? But let's start with focus. Let's take 3 patterns of focus for your audience. If I asked you, and I think I know with you, it would be pretty simple, but which of these do you tend to spend more time in? Do you tend to focus more on what you have or what's missing?
What's missing?
That's right. And when I ask most audiences that I have of 20,000 people in the stadium, the majority of them are achievers, and the majority of them focus on what's missing.
Most achievers, we focus on the things that we haven't done yet. And I call it the syndrome of never having enough, never being enough. See, never having enough of not being enough, that feeling of not enoughness, that's the gift or the curse. Shout out to one of my Inner Circle members who wrote a book called Not Enoughness, The Gift or the Curse. I'm going to put a link for his book so you can read it. A great book. It talks about no matter how much money you have, it's never going to be enough. But see, that is the gift and also the curse. The gift is because you're going to do more than the average person. By focusing on the things that you don't have, you're always going to be chasing. The curse is that it's never going to be enough because you always want more. There's always a next level. So one of the things that Yarek talks about is that inner wealth. You have to feel that you're enough inside to be able to have all the things that you want in the outside. Because the outside world doesn't define you. It's who you are in the inside that matters.
Constantly focus on what's missing. It'll make you keep pushing, but it's very hard to sustain deep levels of happiness because you're all focused on what's missing. And so you're an overachiever, so you can still stack those enough to still feel good. But for most people, they go, what's missing? I'm missing the love of my life. I'm missing this. I'm missing that. That puts them in a state of frustration, anger, sadness, or ultimately depression. Now let's take a second one. Do you tend to focus more? I'm sure I know what the answer on this one is. More on what you can or can't control. All of us focus on both things, right? But which one do you focus more on, can or can't control?
That's what I'm talking about. Some of the high achievers, if they don't reset their goals, if they don't have gratitude and change their expectation of life for appreciating life, they're always gonna get depression. Like I train so many men that once they hit a certain level of success, they're like, what's next, Raul? What's next? So we constantly have to rewire their outcomes. We have to constantly keep that vision and create a bigger vision. Otherwise, we get depressed. Otherwise, like, what's it for? So the key here is to be able to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. Appreciate who you're becoming. I was talking to a client this morning and I said, man, who you becoming to this journey? He's going through a hard time in his business. Who you becoming in this journey is going to determine your legacy. See, it's not about getting what you want. It's about who you're becoming. Because the moment that you focus on who you're becoming, what you want becomes easy. And once you get what you want, you realize it's not going to be as good as you thought it was. But who you became is going to last a lifetime.
Average person, I get what you're saying. For me, at this phase of my life, if I was 35, when I was 2013 and 2014, Tony, I will tell you, anxiety and panic was at the highest level. We had our second kid. I'm in church. I'm going out because I can't control my chest. My palms are sweating. And I'm constantly worried. One day I'm coming back from a tour. Two of my guys are going through a mess in the company. I'm about to lose the whole thing. This has got to be 2013. And one night I go to ER. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. My dad comes. He says, I think my son's having a heart attack. I go to ER. And I'm like, look, what the hell is going on in my body? He says, dude, your body is exhausted. You haven't drank any water. What have you been doing? I've been on a 30-day tour. Well, listen, you haven't gotten sleep. I was at 2-3 hours because we're going city, and trying to grow the business. But the anxiety was of, man, I can't control this, all this other stuff. And then I went through the phase of finding it for myself. But to the average person, we focus on what we don't have. To the average person, we focus on what I have no control over.
That's right.
President, what am I going to do? Election, taxes, oh my God.
And that's the key. The average person is always going to feed off fear. That's what the media does such a great job scaring the hell out of people. Why? Because they want to control the average person. And Patrick did a great job expressing how in his 20s, the average guy in the 20s, like right now with social media, with all these things, they just are a high level of anxiety. Why? Because they're focusing on all the things they can't control. See, but the high achiever understands that, hey, I'm going to focus on things that I can't control, because if I could focus on things that I can control, I could make progress. I could do something about it. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm going to do something about my situation.
Anxiety, fear, frustration,
yes.
High stress, anger, right?
Yep.
Third question, and by the way, most people in my events tend to focus on what they can control 100%. That's why they come.
Right.
They come because they want to take control. They want more skills.
No
They're
question.
hungry to driven,
Yes.
right?
The high achiever is constantly looking for that edge, right? What's going to give me that edge? Whether it's seminars, whether it's books, whether it's podcasts. That's probably why you listen to this, because you're a high achiever. You want to know, how do I control my emotions? You want to know how to get better. See, the average person wouldn't even subscribe to this channel. So if you're a high achiever, I'm going to give you a plug. Subscribe to this channel. Okay, make sure this is your status signal. If you're a high achiever, make sure you subscribe to this channel so we will give you more value.
But the average person, I can't control. And that's why so many people, we have so much mental health problems, because kids now think the whole world's going to end in 12 years because the ecology is going to fall apart, which is a total lie.
Right.
We all know it's a lie. But when you believe that, I don't even want to have a kid. I can't do anything. Total anxiety. So now how do you treat that? Well, I'll give you one more. Do you tend to focus on the past, the present, or the future? We all do all three. Where do you spend more time?
For me,
Yes.
okay, I'd like to be present, but I will tell you, I'm a future guy.
I know.
Yeah.
So, and that makes you successful because you can anticipate. Most achievers focus on the future. The happiest people focus on the present.
I agree.
Right?
I totally agree.
So the key is flexibility.
Right.
If you focus on the past, you can't change it. So that's, unless you're focused on something wonderful, which most people don't, that's not where you want to spend your time. So watch this. I'll ask a room of 20,000 people, stadium, and I'll say, okay, how many of you in this room, we've gone through these three, how many know somebody that takes antidepressants and they're still depressed? 90% of the room raises their hand. Do you know somebody who does that?
Many.
Many. How's that possible? Because the drug does not change anything. All it does is numb you and has massive side effects, including suicidal thoughts. On the other hand, what is really going on? What's going on is they're constantly focused on what they can't control. They're constantly focused on what's missing. They tend to focus more on the past or a future that they think they can't control. And it puts them there. Until you change the cause, that doesn't go away.
So whatever you focus on is either going to keep you depressed or it's going to help you grow. See, if you focus on all the things that you don't have, you're always going to look at the grass is greener on the other side. You're always going to compare yourself with other people. You're always going to look at you not having enough, not feeling enough. So you allow that to be a curse as opposed to a gift. If you focus on the things you can't control, well, you're going to be a victim of your circumstances, a victim to the market, a victim to the government, a victim to your spouse, a victim to your business. Why? Because you're not willing to take ownership and responsibility. And if you're focusing too much on the past failures, there's zero upside of focusing on the past. Past failures are there to help you grow and expand. And if you focus so much on the future that you're afraid of the future because you're scared of what could happen, then it takes away the power. The only power that you have is in the present moment. I'm constantly repeating this to my clients. The present moment is the only moment that you have to make changes. You can't change the past. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The only power that you have, the only opportunity for you to change is today. So my intention for you as you watch this video is to ask yourself, am I focusing on the things I don't have? Because what's wrong with your life is always going to be available, but also what's right. Are you focused on the things that you can't control? Are you complaining and blaming? Are you becoming a victim of circumstances? Or can you take ownership and see that you have control of your emotions, you have control of your thoughts, and most important, you have control of your focus. You could shift your focus and change your focus and choose and be grateful. Because nothing happens unless you have gratitude. Nothing happens unless you get control of your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. So as you watch this video, just write down those three things. What are you focusing on the most? Past, present, or future? Are you focused on the things you can't control, or you focus on the things you don't have? And then you have your recipe for depression. Now you know why you're depressed. So what can you do about it? Change your focus, change the way you think, continue to consume content that's going to uplift you. But most important, do something about your situation. Don't become a victim of your circumstances. Become the creator of your destiny, because the best is yet to come. If you found value in this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And most important, check out this video right here when I talk about how the enemy uses certain type of fears to control humankind. Take a look at this video.